joining us on The Splash is distinguished professor of political science and director of the Center for Civic Engagement from Oakland University. We want to thank you, Professor Dave Dulio, for joining us. Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
We have a lot to talk about when it comes to this presidential debate. President Biden, former President Donald Trump, that'll be happening tonight, Thursday, June 27, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do these debates actually matter when it comes to the election results?
Well, I think that's a incredibly important question. This cycle might be a little different. We've got this very unique, historic, in some ways, matchup between sitting president and a former president. And, in addition, we've got two candidates who are very well known, opinions about them among the vast majority of the electorate are very baked in. People know what they think about Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Of course, both of these candidates are incredibly flawed in their own ways. We've got a majority of Americans in survey after survey who say that they hope or they wished that neither of them were running. I think that in normal times, if we can use that phrase, debates can have an impact. Sure. This one I'm less certain, but at the same time, with the possibility that this goes sideways really quickly from either perspective, right?
Right.
It might have an impact, right? I think that all bets are off kind of with this one.
I would agree too. Nonetheless, especially the landscape of what we expect from elections, debates, and things like that. It has changed over time, but with this one specifically, it seemed like both candidates were kind of hesitant to even make this happen. So how do you feel like this debate may shape the rest of the primaries for both parties?
Well, I think that it's unfortunate, right, that oftentimes we see a debate about debates and whether they should happen, when they're going to happen, how they're going to happen. I think look, these folks want to be the leader of the free world, right? And the least they could do is get on stage and talk to one another and talk to the voters about their vision for the country. And it started with Trump and the Republicans saying the Commission on Presidential Debates is out. We're not and by the way, the commission has run every presidential debate since the 80s.
Right.
And Trump and the Republicans said, we're not doing that anymore. And their big objection was the moderators, right? That Republicans can't get a fair shake with these moderators that they put up. And then, of course, right, we end up with moderators at CNN, Trump's nemesis. I think, but although I would say I think that that's partially by design. There's nothing that Donald Trump likes more than railing against the press, and there's probably nothing his base likes more than when Trump rails against the press. Now, and on the other side, Biden, I think it's incredibly risky for him to do this debate. The concerns over his age, his physical stamina, in some circles, right, his mental stamina are really big issues. And if Joe Biden stumbles or verbally, that is, or has a moment where he loses track and can't get his thoughts straight, like we've seen multiple times over the last many months, that's a big problem for him.
Yeah, no, you hit on the key points, which is why we have you here and join us, distinguished professor of political science and director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University, Professor Dave Dulio, joining us, just breaking down the upcoming presidential debate happening tonight, June 27, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To my understanding, there will be no audience, no studio audience. How do you feel like the absence of the studio audience may affect this debate also?
Yeah, I think that's again, in an ideal world, I think we want an audience, right? We want that um, energy that's in the room. I think that it might feel a little bit stale with just the two candidates and the moderators in the studio. But again, right, we'll take what we can get. I mean, this debate is better than an absence of one, because I think that it does mean
Good
something
point.
when candidates are face to face, and they have to talk to one another. And look, no one is expecting the uh, quality of a debate that we've seen, historically, right? Where even some more modern debates have at the presidential level have given us quality discussion. I don't think anybody's expecting that tonight, and that's a problem. But look, it's better than nothing,
Correct.
and hopefully, down the road we can build on successes and see the quality of debate go up, and enhance the discourse that we have in our campaigns.
From your professional opinion, objectively speaking, also, basically with the status of both campaigns, also, what would you consider a win and or a loss for either campaign after this debate?
Yeah, I usually, and I'm going to give you a terribly unsatisfying answer, but that probably seems like a cop out, but whatever. I think, look, if the success of a debate these days for candidates is usually measured in whether or not they screw up, and I think that couldn't be more true in this case, especially for Joe Biden. If he has a gaffe, or as I said before, sort of loses his thought, that's only going to reinforce the concerns that many Americans have about his age. And I think, Trump, his big danger is, looking like a jerk. And if he can have some patience and sort of just take it low key, I think that would help him dramatically. And at the same time, I think, I think we need to stop thinking about this as, which candidate won. At the end of the day, they're both going to have successes and failures that we can point to. And I
Correct.
suppose you could act like a boxing match, right? You could say so and so won on points, but in fact, I think what we need to do is think about, okay, did the voters win? Did the voters see something that was worthwhile, right? That's the real win-loss thing I think that we need to think about.
That's a good point too, Professor. And speaking of the voters, kind of bringing it to that angle in some sort of way, we know presidential elections usually influence candidates down the line in their party. Getting down to the local level, how do you feel like presidential debates, or this one, may shape the primary election outcomes on an Oakland County or local level?
So this is, again, such an unusual piece of this election cycle. We've got these, as you mentioned, right? Primary day is for a bunch of races is still a month, 6 weeks away.
Right.
And yet we're having this general election debate for the presidency. And I think that the biggest impact that we might see is with voter enthusiasm, and how the base of each party, right? How the staunch Democrats and how the staunch Republicans feel energized about politics in the wake of the presidential debate, right? Because that will affect turnout in the primaries, and certainly in the general in November.
Yes, essentially, yeah, we'll have to watch things as they unfold, especially locally, but we're keeping our eyes and ears to the presidential debate that will be happening tonight also. Before we let you go, essentially, I just want to know, Oakland County is essentially a critical part of the 15 electoral votes that Michigan now has. What role do you expect Oakland County to play in determining what has already been a neck and neck race at the polls?
Yeah, one word: pivotal. Oakland County is important for so many reasons. Number one, it's a huge tranche of votes that both candidates are going to be trying to earn as many as they can.
Right.
I think we've got here in Oakland County an electorate that's different from other parts of the state. If there's any place that's got persuadable voters or voters that are willing to listen to both sides, I think Oakland County has got a lot of them. Not everybody, of course, right? Because there are Democrats who are never going to vote for Trump, and there are Republicans who are never going to vote for Biden. But there's a lot of folks sort of in the middle here that are up for grabs, and I think that they are going to be incredibly important come November.
I agree. Well said. And thank you for your professional expertise for coming right here on the Splash Live. Distinguished Professor of Political Science and Director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University, Professor Dave Dulio. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks for having me.